great.
Okay, get closer together.
Okay, so now am I looking at you?
Yes, yeah. Well, you can look at each other.
So tell me your name and what you do.
My name is Debbie Organ. I'm a physical therapist. I've worked in peds my whole career, so that's going on 35 years, and I've worked here at Blythefield Children's Hospital for that entire time.
Wonderful.
So I love working with kids, and I also teach at Mercy College the pediatric session of their curriculum.
Wow, this is terrific that you had an opportunity now to work with with this client, a client, and I'd just like to hear your first thoughts.
I just felt like it gave her a tool. We were missing a tool for her, for this client. The client that I was introduced with the toddler canes didn't use her hands to try to feel obstacles, and when she came in contact with an obstacle, the client felt very insecure, very anxious, so that I felt maybe possibly using hands against a wall would work, but that didn't work for this client. So when I collaborated with Rosemary, she suggested looking into the toddler canes, and that was my first exposure. So I went online, I Googled it, and I saw a few YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, this looks good, because I'd previously seen clients that use the canes that they hold on to, but this particular client wouldn't be able to hold on to, a cane configuration.
Sure.
So at first, I was a little apprehensive, because sometimes new things create challenges and behavioral challenges, but this was pretty seamless as things go, introducing something new. And I think it took a good few sessions before the connection was made of, once the auditory and tactile feedback that the client received, I think there was processing going on that, okay, this is something that I have to be aware of. And each subsequent session, I feel like the client's figuring it out more and more, that way she's anticipating that there's an obstacle and there's no need to be fearful of it or anxious about it, because it's not touching your body first, it's touching the canes.
Yes.
So it came along at a perfect time.
Yes, that's so well described. Can you, as a physical therapist, appreciate what it means to have an impact like that on your skin, on your body, when it's a physical, sudden thing?
Yeah.
Is there any terminology for that kind of a thing, or can you describe it?
There's two things that come to mind. Is one, if you're working with a typical sensory system, there's one, you would feel a sudden, pressure from hitting an obstacle. But if you're dealing with a sensory system that may be not as typical, where, sensation is heightened, or touch can be perceived as noxious if it's sudden. So you have a sensory system that may be more typical and one that didn't develop as typically. But I think the key to me, in my mind, is that you're feeling that impact in the pelvic region, not your extremities, not your arms, your legs. And that's kind of where everybody moves from, or typically, pelvic generates movement. So you're feeling it there, and because that pelvic band it well distributes that impact. It's not just, banging into something in a small area. So you have a good distribution of that feel throughout the pelvis, which I didn't know how it would be,
right.
But it seems like that's a very acceptable place to feel it.
Interesting.
So, before that I was thinking more, hands trailing and, that impact. But to me, it's working with this specific client.
Nice.
Yeah.
How often does she wear it?
Generally, I think we've been averaging 1 to 2 times a week. Sometimes there's been school vacations, the client is sometimes out, sometimes we can't always, our schedules are a little crazy here. But
Yeah.
I think the more that we've used it, the more accepting and explorative the client really is now with it.
Yeah. And usually a typical session is about a half an hour.
We tend to, I think we tend to try to keep it a half hour, but we always tend to go over when we're using the paddle cane, so it always ekes into a 45-minute session just because there's new things, you know, and you want to end on a really positive note, and when they're exploring, it's like you don't want to say, oh, 30 minutes, time's up.
Right. So, you know, what I was watching today was something that you guys were elaborating on as far as the new things. Some of the things that I've heard other therapists say is the child is walking straighter. Is that an experience you would have? Is there anything else?
I don't know if I can say straighter because this specific client tends to go a certain distance and then pivot, and go a certain distance and pivot. But definitely, thresholds were a very big obstacle in this building. You know, all the thresholds are different materials. Some are metal, some have ridges in it, some have quite a lip. And so thresholds, the client was drawn to open doors, wanted to go through the open doors, but as soon as the foot would hit the threshold, then sometimes the client would just get upset, fearful, agitated. Sometimes the client would stiffen and it would make it difficult to proceed, even though she wanted to explore that other area. With the toddler canes, hearing the threshold first, there was a period where she would hear the threshold and then just stop. And that would be like, okay, that's that scary threshold, I'm just not going through it. And now, over the past few sessions, she'll hear the threshold and she'll walk right over it. It used to be that I have to hold the hand, and now it's like, I hear it, I'm just going over it. And so that was, I began disliking thresholds in this facility because it was like, why can't they all be uniform? Why can't they all be one material? Why do they have to make so much noise? But now, it's a happier place.
It really sounds like it. That's really great. What other benefits do you think to your practice with this?
The other thing that I see, just in my mind, you know, I would love to try it with other clients to, you know, just get a better feel for, you know, this is one individual. But the fact that it provides, I don't want to say stability, but it provides a grounding perception in front. You know, it's not offering the client support, but yet it's offering some grounding. Whereas if your balance is a little off and you feel this here, you know you're not going to go forward because this is somewhat helping a little. So for clients that are learning to walk, this could offer a little bit of stability where it's not going to hold them up, but certainly it might just make them feel a little less apprehensive about. Sometimes kids feel like they're going to fall forward and they hold their body back. Other kids feel like they're going to fall back and hold their body forward. So I guess it would depend on the client.
Sure.
So, but that to me, that's another potential benefit from feeling that the ground is there and you're not as at risk.
You talk about potentially other kids. Who would you recommend for wearing something like this?
I'm just thinking of kids that are dealing with vision issues, you know, where their environment, the environment in this setting is there's a lot going on. There's a lot of sounds, there's a lot of colors, shapes, you know, everywhere you turn there's a lot of children, there's a lot of voices. So for children with visual impairment that are relying on their hearing more, there's a lot to disrupt that. Whereas this, you know, it adds that extra layer of your feeling what's around you. You know, your midsection is feeling it. So I think that could be very helpful.
Yeah. So when you can't see where you're going, having this warning seems like it's helping out a lot. Do you think there'd be benefit to increasing the amount of time the client wears, the number of locations potentially?
Yeah, I think, you know, with any kind of motor learning skill, the more practice you have, the more it becomes second nature.
Yeah.
I think, you know, some of the challenges are, you know, integrating it into a busy classroom environment.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of equipment, there's a lot of wheelchairs, so there's potentially so many obstacles in the classroom environment. If it was a little more wide open, and I know that seems kind of strange to say, oh, it wouldn't be good in the classroom because there's too many obstacles, but I just think like the feedback would be constant. You'd constantly be feeling an obstacle. But definitely within our session, the challenges are sometimes, you know, walking is a major goal, but there's also other goals.
Right.
You know, like transitional skills, being able to get up from the floor if you're down on the floor. So there's sessions where, seeing a client, I have to devote, you know, I have to kind of split up my time between walking and upright activities.
Well, that's a good point, because it is true that were you going to work on standing up with wearing this, that is certainly, it's something, it's current design, it takes a little extra.
Right.
And we've seen pushing up from a squatted being one of the more successful.
From kneeling?
Kneeling to squatting, and then so straight up. But then we have had good with the sort of turning to the front and pushing up that way. But this cane has to kind of stick out to the side. So it's, you know, can sometimes feel like it's too far forward and maybe sort of awkward.
Right.
But it's definitely would be something that you'd want to work on with her. Where is she going to do more of it? Because certainly that means she's going to sit down and need to get back up again.
The question that goes into my mind, because for this client, we're also working on stair negotiation.
Yes.
But I don't see how this would, you know, definitely not with going up.
Yes.
I've thought about it going down a little, because that is a challenge. This particular client will go up more readily and more fluidly, then going down is a little more scary. I honestly never tried it with her, going down, but it couldn't, going up
This
would be
length is a very easy length for down on a normal size set of stairs.
Okay.
It essentially floats down and then locates the landing, and it doesn't get in the way of the footfall.
And that would be, again, I haven't tried it.
Right.
But kids that are fearful of going downstairs, many times they'll search with their foot.
Yes.
So they'll go down, you know, with their foot in like a ballet position, going down to find the steps, so that this could give her the auditory and sensory feedback. I honestly haven't tried it.
Yeah. So that's the benefit. And then again, you know, with the contacting of objects, in some way, shape, or form, we do have to start to sort of re-evaluate our understanding of the value of that contact. Because as you were saying, with that around here, for a sighted person, that would be too, you know, really annoying. And when you watch it as a sighted person, you think, ooh, ooh, there's another, ooh, there's another. But then as you see that the value is all of that information getting the warning all the time, then the self-regulation and the ability to find a clear path and the ability to take and then use that information gets better. So that even in a busy, obstacle-ridden classroom, we've seen real success not only in navigating through the narrow spaces, but then also doing, you know, tricky little 3-year-old things like throwing things off of surfaces, you know, like really having fun with the space. Because now they have all of that warning, and it's 2 steps of warning. And of course, it's definitely a recalibration of watching, because it is so new. We're not used to seeing them get the warning all the time. But and then it will relax you in the end, because you know they're going to get the warning.
And actually there have been a few sessions where this client has actually played, like explored, like just stayed in one spot, doing it over and over, and trying to figure out, okay, now the client moved to a corner and was trying to figure out, now what does this mean? And just was playing with it, which was nice to see. She wasn't getting frustrated, she wasn't getting upset. It was just like, okay, this is interesting.
Definitely seen that, and then the wall's still there. It's still there. It's still there. Which is really nice to know when typically you're not always so sure.
Right,
so
object permanence.
Have the surety that you will find it again. And then with the twirling, because I know twirling happens a lot with our population, but I've seen it now where they twirl, find the wall, and then find the wall, and then they're like, well, let's turn the other way and find the wall.
See if the wall's still there on the other side.
So now it's a new kind of thing. It's not an aimless twirling, it's a twirling with investigation, exploration. To find what we knocked into.
It's very nice to see. It's just, you know,
nice.
Little light bulbs going off.
What age would you recommend for any, you know, kids You think?
It would be hard for me to say, but once a child starts wanting to explore upright, if they're visually impaired, I would think it's a good time to introduce it before they become, especially if they're not readily using their hands to find obstacles, I would think that, certainly trial and error. You could try it when a child's up and trying to explore and see.
Definitely.
I don't know, kids usually start getting up into standing around 12 months, and by 18 months they're usually trying to explore walking, but with kids with delays, that could be much later.
Right. Right. It's really an interesting question. Would having the warning allow them to achieve closer to their developmental potential in the time frame of walking and moving out?
Right, because when you look at kids with visual impairments, every skill tends to be delayed.
A little left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been so great. I mean, I could talk all day. I just wonder, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you might?
I'm trying to think.
Well, it was nice of you to recommend it to your students.
Yes, they haven't gotten back to me. They were going to show it to their CIs.
Okay.
And, I'm not sure with their clients where they are exactly with their level of delay and how close they are to being, ambulatory without a great amount of assist. So.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really helpful for me in using this is having a stool that moves fluidly, so that you can be low with them instead of having to be up above them. And I also feel like, from this client's standpoint, being more at her level when I'm giving her auditory feedback is nicer than me being high up. And so,
Easier to lose that
yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you. It's
Debbie.
great. It's great
Wonderful.
talking to you.
All right.